This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to today's briefing. We are covering a massive wave of courtroom developments, from a serial killer's confession to a major sentencing in a high-profile celebrity overdose case. Let's get right into it.
Rex Heuermann pleads guilty to 7 Gilgo beach murders.
Tanner Horner confesses to killing 7-year-old Athena Strand.
The ketamine queen receives 15 years for Perry's death.
Heuermann admits to an 8th victim in a plea.
A timeline reveals how the Gilgo investigation unfolded slowly.
Heuermann shows no emotion while admitting his gruesome crimes.
Chilling images show Athena Strand inside the delivery truck.
A Hawaii doctor is convicted of attempted cliffside manslaughter.
First, today, in a stunning development for one of the most notorious cold cases in New York history, Rex Heuermann has officially pleaded guilty to the murders of 7 women. The 62-year-old former architect appeared in a Suffolk County courtroom to admit his role in the Gilgo Beach serial killings, a series of deaths that haunted Long Island for decades. Heuermann was initially arrested in 2023 for the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. However, the scope of the charges quickly expanded as investigators linked him to Maureen Brainard Barnes, Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor, and Valerie Mack. Beyond the 7 formal murder counts, Heuermann also admitted to killing an 8th victim, Karen Vergata. This admission provides long-awaited answers for families who spent years wondering if their loved ones would ever see justice.
The psychological profile of Heuermann is particularly chilling, as experts describe him as a serial sexual killer who maintained a pro-social life. Unlike many criminals who struggle to function in society, Heuermann lived a seemingly normal existence in Nassau County with a family and a professional career. Former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole noted that this ability to blend in is exactly why he went undetected for so long. He was able to compartmentalize his violent urges while appearing to do everything the right way in his public life. During the hearing, Heuermann reportedly showed very little emotion, confirming his guilt in a calm manner. Former Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart emphasized that while the plea brings accountability, it is the families who truly deserve this resolution after never giving up on the search for the truth.
Next up, in Texas, the trial of Tanner Horner took a dramatic turn as he pleaded guilty to the capital murder of 7-year-old Athena Strand, just as the proceedings were set to begin. The jury is now focused entirely on his sentencing, with prosecutors aggressively seeking the death penalty. During the proceedings, a recorded interview was played where Horner described the child as a sweet kid while simultaneously detailing the horrific way he ended her life. Horner initially tried to claim he accidentally hit her with his FedEx van, but surveillance footage from inside the vehicle clearly showed him putting her into the van while she was uninjured. He eventually admitted to investigators that a voice in his head told him to hurt her, leading him to attempt to break her neck before ultimately strangling her with his own hands.
The testimony from investigators was gut-wrenching, particularly the details regarding the search for Athena's body. Texas Ranger Job Espinoza walked the jury through the various lies Horner told before finally leading them to a bamboo forest where he claimed to have tossed her. When she wasn't found there, the search continued until her body was discovered in a river miles away. Horner also mentioned an alter ego he called Zero, suggesting this persona played a role in the crime. Despite the gruesome nature of the killing, Horner emphatically denied any sexual assault, and he has not been charged with any sexual crimes in this case. The jury must now weigh these disturbing confessions and the cold manner in which Horner discussed the crime as they decide whether he should face the ultimate punishment under Texas law.
Now let's shift to the woman known as the ketamine queen, Jasveen Sangha, has been sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for her role in the death of actor Matthew Perry. Sangha operated what prosecutors described as a high-volume drug trafficking business out of her North Hollywood home, catering specifically to a high-profile Hollywood clientele. She pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including the distribution of ketamine resulting in death. The court heard how Perry, who had been struggling with addiction, sought out Sangha when his legitimate doctors refused to provide him with more of the drug. On the day he died, Perry was injected with at least 3 shots of ketamine supplied by Sangha. The investigation revealed that Perry had paid approximately $55,000 in cash for drugs in the months leading up to his tragic passing in October 2023.
Prosecutors highlighted Sanga's calculated efforts to distance herself from the crime after Perry's death, including changing her messaging app settings to automatically delete evidence. While she faced a potential sentence of up to 65 years, her defense successfully argued for a reduction based on her guilty plea and acceptance of responsibility. Sanga was one of 5 defendants charged in connection with the case. Other individuals involved, including Dr. Salvador Plasencia and Perry's personal assistant Kenneth Iwamasa, have also faced legal consequences or are awaiting sentencing. The case has shone a bright light on the underground network of enablers and dealers who exploit wealthy individuals struggling with substance abuse. For Sanga, the 180-month sentence marks the end of her reign as a primary supplier to the stars, as the justice system seeks to deter similar trafficking operations.
Moving on, returning to the Gilgo Beach case, more details have emerged from the courtroom, where Rex Heuermann admitted to killing 8 women in total. The former Manhattan architect sat calmly in a dark suit as he confirmed that pleading guilty was in his own best interests. As the district attorney read the names of each victim, Heuermann replied that he killed each one by strangulation. This specific detail confirms the predatory nature of his crimes, which involved hiring women as escorts, using burner phones before killing them, and dumping their bodies along Ocean Parkway. One of the most significant parts of the plea deal is that Heuermann will not be formally charged in the 1996 death of Karen Vergata, despite his admission of guilt in her case. This arrangement was part of the negotiation that finally brought a close to the lengthy legal battle.
The courtroom was packed with family members of the victims, as well as Heuermann's own ex-wife and daughter, who watched from the back row. It was a heavy atmosphere as the man who had lived a double life for decades finally faced the consequences of his actions. The investigation into the Gilgo Beach murders actually began with the search for Shannon Gilbert, whose frantic 9/11 call in 2010 led police to discover the remains of several other women wrapped in burlap. While Gilbert's death was never officially linked to Heuermann, her disappearance was the catalyst that exposed his dumping ground. Although as many as 16 sets of remains were found in the area over the years, investigators believe multiple killers may have used the site. However, with Heuermann's guilty plea for these 8 victims, a major chapter of this dark history is finally resolved.
Next, to understand the magnitude of the Heuermann plea, we have to look back at the complex timeline of the Long Island serial killer investigation. It all started on May 1, 2010, when Shannon Gilbert vanished after a frantic call to emergency services. She was working as an escort and told operators that people were trying to kill her. While searching for her months later, a K-9 unit discovered the remains of 4 other women near Gilgo Beach. These women, who became known as the Gilgo 4, were all petite and had been working as online escorts. The similarities were striking, and it became clear to the Suffolk County Police that they were hunting a serial killer. The first of these victims, Maureen Brainard Barnes, had been missing since 2007 after traveling to Manhattan from Connecticut for work.
The investigation stalled for years as police struggled to identify a suspect. They knew the killer used burner phones to contact the women, with 16 interactions recorded between a burner phone and Brainard Barnes's device just before she disappeared. Another victim, Melissa Barthélemy, went missing in 2009, and her family even received taunting phone calls from the killer using her own phone. It wasn't until 2023 that a breakthrough occurred involving DNA from a discarded pizza crust, which finally linked Rex Heuermann to the crimes. This timeline illustrates the painstaking work required to connect these cold cases. For over a decade, the families of these women lived in a state of limbo, waiting for a break in the case. The eventual capture of Heuermann was the result of modern forensic technology finally catching up with a killer who thought he had covered his tracks.
Now during the actual plea hearing in Riverhead, New York, Rex Heuermann's demeanor was described as completely devoid of emotion. As District Attorney Ray Tierney presented an overview of the massive evidence against him, which included over 100 terabytes of data and 7,000 pages of documents, Heuermann simply listened. He admitted to luring each woman with promises of money before strangling them. The victims he pleaded guilty to killing included Sandra Costilla, Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, and the original Gilgo 4. Tierney detailed how Costilla was the first known victim, killed in 1993 and dumped in Southampton. The court also heard the gruesome details of how some victims, like Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor, were dismembered and their remains discarded in multiple locations. This systematic violence was a hallmark of Heuermann's methods over the course of nearly 20 years.
The prosecution's evidence was overwhelming, showing a clear pattern of behavior. Heuermann used burner phones to arrange meetings and often carried out these murders while his family was out of town, allowing him to maintain his facade of normalcy. He even admitted to transporting the body of Karen Vergata, whose skull was found in 2011 but wasn't identified until very recently. The fact that Heuermann was able to continue this cycle for so long is a testament to his calculated approach. Even his own daughter has publicly stated that she believes her father was responsible for these horrific acts. By entering these guilty pleas, Heuermann avoids a lengthy and public trial, but he also ensures that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars, finally providing a sense of closure to a community that has been on edge for decades.
Next up, in the sentencing phase for Tanner Horner, jurors were shown a haunting image of 7-year-old Athena Strand sitting in the back of his FedEx delivery truck. This photo, taken from a video recorded inside the vehicle, shows the young girl on her knees behind the driver's seat shortly after she was kidnapped. Prosecutors used this image to dismantle Horner's initial claim that he had accidentally hit her with the van. Instead, they argued that he intentionally took her and told her not to scream or he would hurt her. The district attorney warned the jury that they would hear audio of the attack, describing the sheer level of fight the 67-pound child put up against a 250-pound man. It was a chilling reminder of the terror Athena faced in her final moments before she was killed and dumped in the river.
The emotional weight of the trial was further amplified by testimony from Athena's stepmother, Ashley Strand. She recounted the frantic hours following the girl's disappearance, which began when she realized Athena was no longer in the yard where she had been playing. The package Horner was delivering that day was actually a Christmas present of Barbie dolls for Athena, a detail that adds a layer of tragic irony to the crime. Horner's defense is attempting to provide context for his actions, but the prosecution is focused on the brutality and the lies he told to cover his tracks. As the jury deliberates on his sentence, they are faced with the stark contrast between the innocent image of a child in a delivery truck and the violent confession of the man who took her life. The community continues to watch closely as this trial reaches its conclusion.
Finally, in Hawaii, a jury has found anesthesiologist Gerhard Koenig guilty of attempted manslaughter rather than the more serious charge of attempted murder. The conviction stems from a 2005 incident where Koenig attacked his wife, Ariel, during a scenic hike on a cliffside trail in Honolulu. Ariel testified that her husband tried to stab her with a syringe and hit her over the head with a rock with the intention of pushing her off the cliff once she was unconscious. She told the jury she started screaming because she knew he was trying to kill her. The jury's decision to convict on the lesser charge was based on the finding of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. This verdict carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, whereas an attempted murder conviction could have resulted in life in prison. Koenig appeared visibly shaken as the verdict was read in court.
The defense attorney for Koenig expressed gratitude that the jury did not opt for the life sentence, though he indicated plans to appeal based on various rulings made during the 3-week trial. Prosecutors, while perhaps disappointed not to get the top charge, stated they respect the jury's role in weighing the evidence and the burden of proof. Ariel Koenig survived the attack only because a pair of hikers happened to witness the assault and intervened. She suffered critical injuries and has since filed for divorce. This case has drawn significant attention in Hawaii due to the professional status of the defendant and the calculated nature of the attack in such a remote, beautiful location. As Koenig awaits his formal sentencing, the legal battle over his mental state at the time of the crime remains a central point of contention for both the defense and the prosecution.
That wraps up our briefing for today. For more on these stories and the latest updates, follow this show for our next daily update. Thank you for listening.